We talk about mine or Galamsey, but there's more at the Ministry of Natural Resources, isn't it? So we brought in studio to talk about the ministry and our gold matters. Paa Kwesi Schandorf is Media Relations Officer at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. And I often remind them that they were journalists and decided to go into government. Paa Kwesi, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Do you miss journalism?
Do I miss journalism? Yeah, once a while. Yeah. I think it gives you the flair to interact with an array of issues. So
I've seen some NPP party members on social media saying that all of you who were appointed into this government to serve in various portfolios who used to be journalists were not practicing journalism in the proper sense of the word, and that you were just criticizing the Akufo-Addo administration for your own selfish gain, and that now power has changed and you are benefiting. How do you respond to a criticism like that? I mean, PK Sapon, for instance, is one of them who continually calls you people out, as he terms it, for having worked for yourself and not for the people of Ghana. How do you defend yourself in this?
Well, so first of all, it's good evening to yourself and to the rest of our listeners who are connected. I do not think that I can speak for myself. If you were to examine my social, comments on issues, my views on matters, there were even too many times that I criticized then, the NDC, right? And yes, anybody who has known me has always known that I've always had a soft spot for the NDC. But there were even times where, my friends in the NDC had cause to say that, look, this is your journalism that you are practicing. You have to be amicable to the NDC. You have to front the narratives of the NDC. Why are you being more confrontational and brutish? And for the fact that I had those kinds of feedback, clearly it shows that I was doing a work that was largely balanced. But even if I were not doing work that was balanced, even if it is true that I was purposively, aligning my crafts to amplify the NDC and diminish the NPP, the truth of the matter is that I think we have to come to a certain realm in a journalistic space where affiliation no longer should be hidden. I think we have to come to that place where Kofi can say that, look, I am boldly and proudly NDC. Another journalist on another channel can say that I am proudly NPP. However, they do their works professionally, because the whole conversation about neutrality, I think it doesn't exist. It is a facade. It's utopia.
Are you only now realizing this, or you've always believed that?
I've always. Indeed, I can pull out a number of posts to you to indicate my stance on the whole subject of neutrality, because I feel nobody can existentially be neutral. Give me 30 seconds on this. For example, you are born in a particular community. You are raised under unique circumstances. Your spiritual, religious orientation, world outlook, everything is shaped in a particular form. Then when you become a journalist, there is the expectation for you to be neutral. How can you be neutral when you have been brought up within a certain ecosystem? Definitely you have your specific choices and preferences, including your political sympathies. So the expectation of neutrality, I think, is rather, I don't want to say unreasonable, but it is unfair. We shouldn't demand neutrality from journalists. We should demand professionalism. So if Schandorf is...
So as a journalist, you cannot be neutral. That's what you're saying.
No human being, actually, even beyond gender, nobody can be neutral under the circumstances. So if somebody is practicing journalism, this should be the expectation that Kofi says is a journalist. He belongs to the NDC. But in the body of his works, is he professional? Does he speak truths to power? That should be the expectation. But when we begin to expect neutrality, the question is, can it even come in the first place? That's why everybody fakes. And if we could run a poll, no practicing journalist now will say, sorry, I belong to NDC or NPP, because the feeling is that when you do that, you'll be tagged. But you can hit your chest and say, I am NDC. Yet, if the current government of the day does wrong, you call them out. That's professionalism. So I've been advocating. In fact, I think I had a concept that I've forgotten. It's not coming to mind. I had a concept. I wrote something about it, that if you are a journalist, instead of being trying to be neutral, you should be dope. I said D means that you should be something like that.
No,
I've forgotten.
How is the ministry that you represent doing? The Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. I just spoke a short while ago before you joined with Jerry Ahmed Shaib. He says that the gold board is buying Galamsey gold. And so the Galamsey that President Mahama said he was coming to fight, he has set up an institution to be buying the Galamsey gold.
Oh, that is another piece of propaganda that I think we all ought to, fervently dismiss. The reason we have to discard it thoroughly is that, first of all, if you look at the Galamsey fight, the fight against illegal mining, anytime, the critics have had cause to question the commitment of government, I've always said that, look, we need to examine, first off, where we were and where we have come to. Anytime you're able to do that analysis, you'll be able to come out with a very convincing verdict on the commitment of the government to dealing decisively with the issue. So where were we? Indeed, Galamsey, of course, didn't start in 2017. But Umaru, between 2017 to 2024, and the facts bear me out, that is when the menace of illegal mining particularly deepened in this country. And the facts are there to, substantiate it. So, for example, look at the total number of forest reserves that we have, 288. Within 2017 to 2024, 44 were besieged and impacted. Out of that 44, 9 then were declared no-go areas. As of now, they have been reclaimed. That is only about the forest reserves. Let's look at our landscape. Indeed, prior to now, we had always been saying that, okay, we had just 5,500 hectares of land that had been destroyed. But apparently that record was only up to 2021. The record that tails into 2024 actually indicates that 10,000 hectares of land had been destroyed during the period under review.
And this is a record from the Ministry of...
From the Forestry Commission.
Okay.
It can be verified from the Forestry Commission. Okay, so that is the data. So if that is, and that is only a summary of, the devastation that had occurred during the period. But if you look at the gains that we have made now, as against the bad legacy that we inherited, clearly you can see that there is some kind of progress, significant for that matter. So if anybody then says that, well, the government is not committed, and for instance, the narrative comes that government is actually now sponsoring Galamsey because government is buying Galamsey gold, you would have to gauge it against the facts. Indeed.
But I asked him the same question. He said, where does Gold Board buy his gold from? Is it not from Galamsey?
No,
that's what he asked me.
Gold Board buys his gold from small-scale miners, legalized and registered small-scale miners for that matter. And even in that enterprise, in that transaction, as I speak, the Ghana Gold Board, for example, has devised a mechanism that is able to detect the source of gold from its mine of origin. I want to believe that by the end of the year would be operationalized full scale. So let's look at the logic. Indeed, if we were to assume without admitting that a gold board is buying Galamsey gold, the same gold board that is buying Galamsey gold now goes to create a mechanism to now detect the source of gold. It doesn't, frankly speaking, for the want of a better word, not to sound condescending, it doesn't make sense. If the gold board is really benefiting from the illegal mining enterprise, why would it create a mechanism to now sift the wheat from the chaff and make sure that the gold that it is buying is coming from, sources that are legally mined? It doesn't make sense. Okay. So the gold board is not.
So you say
doing any of that.
We are saving some of our forests. What measures have we put in place at the ministry and in government, for which reason you are saying that some of the forests that were hitherto lost are now being regained?
So the first policy that we have rolled out that is yielding, I must say, a lot of positive results is the instrumentality of NIMOS, the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat. Prior to now, and you would recall, we had Operation Vanguard, we had Operation Halt, and a couple of, I think we also had Operation Galamsey, all of those, all right? They were largely fragmented. They didn't have any proper policy coordination. So the new government of the day says that, look, instead of having that tomorrow you have deployed these people, the next day you have commissioned this group and all of that, integrate all the enforcement agencies and put them into one unit, put them under the Ministry of Lands, and that is what we have now, NIMOS. That is the umbrella institution for enforcement. What have been the gains? As I speak to you now, we have on record, we have over 300 suspected illegal miners who have been arrested by the NIMOS task force. If you add that to the rest of the other arrests that have been, conducted over the country, you're looking at a figure that is well above 1,300. The only question that has come, which I agree is legitimate, is the fact that, if you want to protect the forest and you are effecting arrests but you are not prosecuting them, is it not much ado about nothing? If you arrested them and you paraded them but you were not taking them to court for verdicts to be given, what are you doing? The truth is that, first off, indeed, prosecution is not within the ambit of NIMOS's work. But beyond that, you know that in a legal system, and this is not to in any way mischaracterize our judiciary whatsoever, but cases often, take sometimes too much time. And as we speak, we can all attest to the fact that there is a backlog of cases that have not been attended to. So the thinking of government now is that create specialized tribunals to deal exclusively with all illegal mining offenses. that conversation has been had at cabinet. Indeed, the Attorney General is doing the paperwork, and very soon we're going to have specialized, courts to deal exclusively with all anti-illegal mining offenses. When you do that, you clear the backlog, and once there is an arrest, there is an attendant prosecution, and you limit the number of miscreants in the system. So that is, one major thing we have done to preserve our forest in that
You are
regard.
celebrating NIMOS, but we also see a lot of resistance from NIMOS and its works in a lot of communities. There have been standoffs here and there, and we keep seeing that challenge. In fact, as recently as last week, I was interviewing a party officer of the NDC in the Ashanti region who said that the anti-Galamsey fight there will not win because everybody's involved in some. What do you say to that?
I had cause to listen to that conversation, and the truth of the matter is that I disagree with his stance. It's fair to say, in his opinion, that the fight will not be won, but indeed the fight would be won. The thing about the political interference is that it is more complex than we think, and that is why not too long ago, the President of the Republic himself had cause to say and admit remarkably for that matter that he even knows that there are people in the NDC who are knee-deep and complicit. And that is a truism. Indeed, it's not even only NDC people who are involved across all spheres. And the last time I had a conversation with you, I mentioned a particular group of people who were involved. It became a bit controversial, but that's the truth of the matter. There are so many people, or let me say, everybody, I'm saying it advisedly, in one way or the other, is either facilitating it, is either sponsoring it, is either giving it some kind of momentum.
So it means we'll win the fight. That's what it simply means.
No,
everybody's involved.
No, everybody. Everybody across various spheres. There's a certain level of complicity. So we want to say widespread, national complicity. But if you have that kind of widespread national complicity, what you need under the circumstances is political will. That is the temerity of heart, the fortitude of spirit to say that, look, now that everybody is involved, I'm going to crack the whip regardless of who success got. And that is the disposition that the government of the day has, reason for which I believe, and I want to assure Ghanaians that the fight will be won. If there is an evidence to, substantiate why I'm saying that there is political will, for example, Maru, we all know that, yes, the NDC is the government of the day, it is the party in power. But as we speak, there are two leading members of the party who currently are being investigated for their alleged involvement in illegal mining activities. Of course, they have separately and categorically denied their involvement. But let's look at the logic. For the fact that the government of the day can afford the luxury or the political risk of going after its own people, who then cannot be, taken on? If the government of the day can go after its own national organizer, its own third national vice chairman, then who can be exempted? And so that is why I believe, and that is why I want to believe that every well-meaning Ghanaian should anticipate better results, because if the government of the day is going after its own people, clearly nobody will be spared.
You have something called blue water guards. What are they supposed to do? Swim after Galamseyers and catch them, or do what? Because they don't have weapons, right?
Certainly not. And indeed, we have received this kind of. It's actually a genuine question. What is the essence of the blue water guards? Because they are not weaponized, they have not been equipped with any form of ammunition. So what is their essence? Effectively, they are community intelligence officers. What they do is basically to gather intelligence across the respective water bodies in the communities where they live in, and then this intelligence now feeds into the actual operations of NIMOS. So if you want to assess their impact, or if you want to evaluate their significance, look at the outputs of NIMOS, because any successful raid by NIMOS is significantly inspired by an intelligence that the Blue Water Guards would have supplied under the circumstances. And so they are not a combative troop. They are not any group of people who are weaponized, and they are not even given that kind of training. Indeed, we've had people say that, do they go and fight? What do they do in their uniforms and all of that? Theirs is to monitor, gather intelligence, pick feedback. They give it to the appropriate quarters, NIMOS, and then NIMOS, comes into action.
So they are chukers that you have put in the community, which means that their lives are vulnerable.
They are specialized informants, if I have to put it that way. Yes, their lives are vulnerable. Anybody in the Galamsey fight, clearly, you are involved in a risky enterprise. But
What if they get compromised? What steps are you putting in place? Because you pay them what, 300 cities?
No, we don't pay them 300
How much
cedis.
do you give them?
No, they are paid well over 1,500 Ghana cedis.
And if someone gives them
a month,
5,000, I mean, a Galamsey would have so much money. They will look the other way.
I'll be honest, the truth of the matter is that there have been reports of that nature before, where they have gone to the field and very hefty sums have been given to them. If you're getting 1,500 and you go to the field and somebody is offering to give you 20,000 Ghana cedis on the spot, naturally you feel that you have to, just give it, especially when all they are saying is that, oh, just don't report them to NIMOS, just let us go. The truth of the matter, however, is that we have a mechanism that is able to detect some of these. So there are a couple of them who were recruited who have all been withdrawn. Why? Because they were, found to be culpable in some of these, offenses. And so, yes, it happens. It's a human institution. You get people trying to bribe them and all of that. But when it happens, there's the mechanism to ensure compliance. And that is why they are still delivering.
Your ministry is called Lands and Natural Resources. A lot of the time we talk about Galamsey and gold when we are talking to your ministry, but there are other things you deal with.
Absolutely.
Are you able to pay attention to those things, or everything has been refocused on only Galamsey?
Unfortunately, that is what the situation has become. There are so many positive engagements at the ministry, right? So many positive engagements and so many activities. But Galamsey has, inadvertently become the mainstay because it's an issue of concern. And but that does not detract from the fact that so many other things
but
are
happening. If you focus all your energies on Galamsey, and yet they say impose state of emergency in Galamsey, and you are not doing it, then you are not showing commitment. You are just window dressing the problem.
The call for the declaration of a state of emergency, I think that materially as of now, it is moot and inconsequential.
Why?
Not to sound condescending, but
Galamsey is not over.
Yes, Galamsey is not over. But the reason a state of emergency is not part of the conversation now is that, first of all, let's just journey back a little. Why was there a call for the declaration of a state of emergency?
Because
in the
our
first
river
place?
bodies look like groundnut soup.
Absolutely.
And they still do.
And they still do. All right. But if you look at the conditions, the factors that were enabling, the devastation to continue, one of them was the fact that, yes, we had, for instance, 9 forest reserves that had been completely taken over by armed illegal miners. Enforcement was weak. There were no proper structures to, redefine the licensing regime and all of that. We come into office and then we put in policies that remarkably have been able to give us certain results. So now the conversation is that, okay, even though it is not completely off the table, the current propositions that we have introduced are giving us meaningful results day by day. But if we get to a point, and the president, had cause to say that clearly, that if we get to a point where we see that, look, yes, we have introduced new interventions. However, now let us just, bite the bullet and declare. We'll declare. So it's not completely out of the books, but as of now, the measures we have are giving us results, and therefore we want to stay the status quo accordingly.
Before we go, which other key things is the ministry working on that you think we should know about in terms of natural resources and lands?
Okay, so let's talk about lands. I know we all know that in the erstwhile administration, or not too long ago, there was so much conversation about how persons in public office had used their portfolios to illegally acquire lands and all of that, and there were a lot of conversations around that. As we speak, there is a new dispensation that is overhauling all of that. Indeed, over the last couple of months, the minister has had cause to be explaining to the Ghanaian people that now we have a new system where nobody can just get up today and say that I like a land in cantonments, goes to pay 50,000 Ghana cedis or $50,000, and then the person gets it. So effectively, there is a reformation of the whole public land allocation system. Then again, when you come to the mining sector itself, there is what we call local content. I believe you know about local content. That is having local firms take up basically the whole mining enterprise. We've been mining for years. Ghana is blessed with a lot of resources, but time and time again, we do not have local firms taking charge of the mining enterprise. So expatriates come, they repatriate the profits. We don't get as much.
So EMP.
Now,
So
now,
engineers and planners.
it's not just about engineers and planners. Any local firm that has competence. Now, there is a lot of attention that government is giving to the local firms in that particular respect. Because why should we have the resource and other people, would benefit? So that.
But do we have capacity?
Yes, we have capacity. Indeed, even if we did not have capacity can always be generated. From the time we started mining, if we had devoted our time and resources to say that, look, we were going to grow home and domestic capacity, I'm sure by now we would be competing with the global champions and all of that.
Paa Kwesi Schandorf, Media Relations Officer, Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources.
Well, just 30
you.
seconds. If I have to go, today is the birthday of the Chief Director of the Ministry, Innocent Mako Saliga. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to.
You want to do birthday dedication? Where is the cake?
We'll bring it.
You have to bring it.
Yes, we'll bring it.
So your Chief Director's birthday is today?
It's today, yes.
Happy birthday.
Innocent Mako Saliga.
Oh, that's an Ever.
Yeah.
Let me sing happy birthday for him in Ever. I learned it from Jerry John Rollins.
Okay.
Maba, happy birthday, Nolo. So that was Paa Kwesi Schandorf, his Media Relations Officer of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, joining us for Point Blank tonight. I am Umar Rusanda Amado. I did this with the Jubi Wiafia Kente, produced by Sami Wiafe.